You're with Clement Manyathela.
702.
In fact, let's bring in Jeremy Michaels now. He's a spokesperson for the Madlanga Commission, joining us on the line. Mr. Michaels, thank you for your time. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Good to be with you.
I want to start off with a conversation I was having with the listeners just before 10 o'clock on the open line around the 121 dockets, and we'll later talk about the infrastructure and the readiness of the inquiry. But from the clip I played of you from yesterday, you seem to suggest that as a commission, you didn't really want the original 121 dockets. So I would imagine then the copies of those dockets, which the National Police Commissioner has confirmed they've made, would suffice. Is that a correct assessment of what you said?
Yes, that is correct, Clement. I mean, in the first instance, and I think as we did say yesterday, the Commission is charged with responsibility in its terms of reference, which of course include investigating whether criminal syndicates and drug cartels have infiltrated or exerted undue influence, amongst others, the South African Police Service, and that includes the Political Killings Task Team as well as crime intelligence. So it is then understandable that there was quite a bit of anxiety around those dockets which reside with the Political Killings Task Team. Having said that, the Commission would not want to stand in the in the way of the SAPS doing its work. And hence, the copies of the dockets will suffice because, needless to say, the original dockets need to be with the police, with the investigators who are working on those dockets. But also, we, the Commission, have taken the necessary steps, and I'm not going to get into the detail, to ensure that the integrity of the information that we seek or receive.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, because there have been concerns. The presidency raised some concerns. The acting police minister also raised concerns about the decision to send these dockets back to the Political Killings Task Team. Now, I want to now understand
just on that. Let me just say, Clement, I think again it's very important to emphasize the anxiety on the part of a number of stakeholders and the public is entirely understandable. I mean, the Commission is not going to reveal its investigative methodology and get into that kind of detail because obviously we are dealing with very, very sensitive investigations. But in the context that I've shaped, all of that anxiety is understandable, and it's now history because the Minister of Police, Professor Kachalia, and the National Police Commissioner Masimola both had engaged on that matter, had reached agreement on what needed to be done, and as I say, for the Commission's purposes, from our perspective, we are satisfied that the information we have at our disposal is satisfactory.
Yeah. Do you foresee that there's going to be a scheduling conflict? And have you managed to engage with the evidence leaders of the parliamentary inquiry that's also looking at the same allegations by General Mkhwanazi? Because the two processes will be running concurrently, and the scheduling conflict over consultations is inevitable, which then raises questions over how witnesses, which are needed in both places across the two provinces, will be managed.
You've put it quite succinctly. It is merely a scheduling conflict. We as the Commission, we obviously respect the separation of powers. The ad hoc committee was appointed by Parliament. The Commission of Inquiry was appointed by the President. And of course, we have the same objective, which is to get to the bottom of the allegations made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. And so we can reasonably be expected to communicate with each other, which we have been doing, and work together to find a solution to the scheduling issues. But it is nothing more than that. There's no competition or anything untoward. As I think we said and explained at quite some length yesterday, Justice Madlanga, you may recall, on the 28th of July at our first media briefing, in his words, he said at that point that our first consultations were imminent. That very first consultation was with Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi immediately in the days following that. And had it not been for the procurement issues, which of course you are aware of, that caused then a significant delay in the work of the commission, were it not for that, we would then have been able to progress much faster because, as you know, we had intended to have our first hearing last Monday already on the 1st of September. And of course, it's now rescheduled to take place next Wednesday, the 17th of September.
Yeah. And understanding that obviously the two processes are fundamentally different, is there an opportunity to share information or exchange statements, etc., understanding, of course, the different mandates that you hold here and how different the terms of reference are? Or do you want this to be a completely independent process from that of the parliamentary inquiry?
So I think fair to say that our team is in touch with the parliamentary team at the technical level. And certainly, we would be amenable to requests which we would consider as it relates to information at our disposal. But as you say, these are distinctly separate processes. And so any requests that we would make, that any other state institution may make, we will receive those and deal with those in the spirit of cooperation, and obviously ensure that our process is not compromised, but cooperate to the extent that it is possible.
I want you to clarify something that I was surprised that a few people were shocked by yesterday when Advocate Matthew Chuckleson, who's one of the evidence leaders, said that the findings are not binding and that the commission can only make recommendations to the president. And I've seen that there are quite a lot of people who responded and they were quite disappointed in that. Can you just clarify that? Because this is, of course, a commission. The recommendations are recommendations, and it's not like the president can be pushed to a corner here to implement them or else. They're not binding, but also that doesn't mean that when they're recommendations, you look the other way and not implement them.
Look, I think, firstly, the president saw fit to appoint a commission of inquiry into these very serious allegations by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, which were made in a very public fashion on the 6th of July. A few days later, the president then addressed the nation, made the announcement that he's appointing the commission, and shortly thereafter, the commission was legally proclaimed in a government gazette dated the 23rd of July. So, without getting into the merits, because obviously, that is what the commission is charged with, investigating those allegations. The president appointed the commission with a very specific mandate contained in the terms of reference. And as you will know, but I think it's worth saying again that in addition to the South African Police Service, it includes investigating whether those criminal syndicates had allegedly infiltrated, amongst others, the National Prosecuting Authority, the State Security Agency, the 3 metropolitan police departments in Gauteng, the Department of Correctional Services, the judiciary as well, and any other state institutions within the criminal justice system. So, I mean, that's a very serious investigation which we are conducting, which we are charged with. And I don't think anyone reasonably is going to merely look at the report of the commission. Of course, we have to submit an interim report within 3 months and then a final report within 6 months, and let that gather dust on a bookshelf. And of course, it is the president's prerogative, but needless to say, a lot of work will have gone into the reports that the commission produces. And we have seen in recent months and recent times quite a significant amount of discussion about the State Capture Commission, for example, and its reports. And we have seen reports from and by the president himself in terms of the implementation. And I'm sure that, as I say, the report, the work that this commission produces will be subjected to quite a bit of public scrutiny given what we are dealing with. And at the heart of it, really, Clement, is whether South Africans, whether citizens of our country can trust our law enforcement agencies. As we are seeing, across the country on a daily basis, crime and the operation of criminal gangs. If you look at what is happening on the Cape Flats, Mitchell's Plain, Wynberg, Athlone, etc., and many other parts of the country, these are criminal networks themselves. Those gangs operate on the basis of those networks, whether in prison or outside. And so the country has very high expectations, I'm sure, in terms of what the commission produces.
Yeah. You have secured the testimony of General Mkhwanazi as your first witness. How many other witnesses has the commission confirmed so far?
Clement, is actually a very long list of witnesses. Again, due to the sensitivity of the investigations, and obviously we don't want to talk too much about the witnesses who are coming to the commission. We will make those announcements in due course, but I don't anticipate a situation where we are going to say these are the witnesses that we are going to be calling, and they are going to be appearing on such and such a date. We will deal with those announcements at an appropriate time in due course.
And the protection of those witnesses, I know the Justice Minister said they were working on some kind of witness protection. What great care has been taken here to consider, of course, the safety and protection of these witnesses, especially those whose testimony has already been announced?
So indeed, working together as the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mamoloko Kubai, was saying a couple of weeks ago, the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, her department, as well as a number of other state entities who, in terms of the law, are charged with the responsibility for protecting witnesses. We have been engaging them. We've been in consultation with them. We've taken lessons from the Zondo Commission, the inquiry into state capture. But if you look carefully at the terms of reference, this commission, what is commonly becoming known as the Madlanga Commission, has a rather unique paragraph at, I think it's 15 in the terms of reference, which says, and I quote, "The Commission shall ensure the protection of potential witnesses and witnesses." And it goes on to say all proceedings may be held in public or in private as the chairperson deems necessary, and that is related to protecting the witnesses. So this formulation is quite unique and unprecedented. And so we are having to innovate. We have been doing that as the chief investigator, Dr. Peter Goss, and Advocate Matthew Chaskelson, SC, one of the evidence leaders, was saying yesterday, we are taking great care to ensure that we have a witness protection program that takes into account the unique nature of the Commission, of the very serious allegations that we are investigating, and the lessons to be learned from, for example, the Zondo Commission.
All right, Jeremy Michaels, thank you so much for chatting to our spokesperson for the Madlanga Commission.